Hello again, everyone. I got another story to read from a contribution from PayPal. So here we go. This comes from Lady X. First, I apologize for my English. German is my first language, but I hope that my writing is enough good for you to understand what I am talking about. I was born in Switzerland in 1969. My father is a classic histrionic narcissist. Histrionic meaning, you know, always, the outward emotion, always very much a hypochondriac. There's a lot of bravado, a lot of pomp and circumstance, or your histrionic narcissist types. He is a Spanish macho, and he speaks about himself as an ex-flamenco dancer, an ex-torero. Not sure exactly what that is. Of course, all exaggerated stories. He took 2 classes and he was in torero school with just fighting a fake bull. Oh, it's a bullfighter. Oh, Christ. Oh, nothing proves that you're a man than teasing a friggin' oversized cow with horns. He was a mechanic in reality with fake diplomas. This all would maybe just be funny, but the abuse was definitely not. When he came home angry or frustrated, he beat my brother and me up regularly. And he never ever told me he loved me. He always said to me that I was useless and I will never get to be nothing in my life. Not like him, of course. He never could keep a job a long time, so we were never stable, not emotional and not financial. Right, and what he was doing was he was projecting his own failures onto you. See, by calling you guys losers, you and your brother losers, and you telling you you'll never amount to anything in your life, he's then preventing you from looking at the failure he is in his own life, and he is preventing you from exposing him from his own lies with his fake diplomas, and he's a bullfighter. Meanwhile, he's a car mechanic. And there's nothing wrong with being a car mechanic. I mean, a lot of them you make good money being a car mechanic if you can hold a job, long enough to make a career out of it. So his abuse being the histrionic type, where he's got to always be bravado and the center of attention, his abuse towards you is really just projection of his own failures to let you think you're the loser, so you never have to look at him and expose him for being the loser he actually is. My mother is, I guess, a codependent, and she has chronic depression. She is German, and she was around 5 years old in World War II. She and her sister and brothers assisted to a rape of the Russian soldiers of her mother. She is the second, I'm not sure exactly, she and her sister and brothers assisted to a rape of the Russian soldiers of her mother. I'm not sure if she means assisted or witnessed. She is the second wife of my father, and she got us kids when my father was not even divorced yet. With 4 years, I told her not to marry this man. She admitted several times that I was right by saying that, but she is still with my father because she was never strong enough to leave him, I guess. No, your mother is someone, and I'm not exactly sure what you meant by if she assisted the Russians raping her mother or if they witnessed. I'm thinking you're saying she witnessed her mother get raped by Russian soldiers. But your mother seems to be, she's an enabler, she's a codependent, she needs somebody, in her mind, what she would view as stable, but stability to your mother is somebody, I guess, telling her what to do and taking care of her. There's no mental stability. There's no stability in herself. I remember growing up very lonely and taking care of myself early on. Money was tight, so both my parents worked. My mother had a suicide attempt when I was around 14 years old. She could not work anymore because of her heavy depression. Today, I am convinced it was a result of her traumatic childhood and my father's abuse. Well, I'm sure. I mean, World War II Germany, Nazis, the Russians, you know, were pretty brutal at the end there. And that was a horrible war. My grandfather was in World War II as well. So, it's something that changed his life. But yeah, that was a horrible war. The Russians at the end there were definitely out for revenge. I think they lost like 600,000 people in that war as well. So, your mom was definitely, I can't even imagine what that must have been like. So yeah, you're right, her traumatic childhood. And then, after having a traumatic childhood, as we've talked about on this channel so many times, that pattern's going to continue later on in life, and you're going to gravitate, as your mother did, towards more abusers of the same ilk. My brother sadly is a narc too. I guess he was the golden child because the first common child died after 2 days, and they treated my brother like he was glass. He is 2 years older than me, and he could do no wrong. But at the same time, he was beaten too, so I guess he was not that golden. What was and is confusing to me too. Yeah, violent narcs are just violent. The violence isn't necessarily, it's usually directed at everybody, but like when you got a violent narc in that narc rage, you're going to hit anybody who's close to them. What you're probably talking about is, the more emotional type stuff where maybe he was given more than you, he was spoken to better than you, and that could just be because he was a boy. But the first boy, you said, died after 2 days, so at that point he was treated like glass, as you said. I was always trying to find someone to love me when my parents couldn't, and I could not love myself either. When I was 17, I assisted to the marriage of my parents. About then, I also found out that I was more attracted to women than men, and I had several girlfriends, but it was always about them, never about me, only in the beginning. I fell in love with everyone who gave me more than 5 minutes of attention. And, that can happen as well. As we said, whether I guess you're gay or straight, you're going to, there's straight narcissists and there's gay narcissists. So if you're finding lesbian, if were abused by narcissists as a child and you end up being gay or a lesbian, and you're going to be inclined to be attracted to narcissists that are gay or lesbian. So again, that makes sense. And, because narcissism doesn't have any, obviously, from the people who subscribe to my channel and all the information's out there, there's every race, color, creed, sexual orientation, gender, whatever, I don't even know how you would, what you're calling it these days, are victims of narcissism, and they find them in their lives. The patterns are the same, even though, we all come from different backgrounds. My parents left Switzerland to live in Spain, so I had little contact with them, inviting my mother to visit me in Switzerland so I could avoid my father. When 21, I began to read books about psychology like Freud, Adler, and Jung, so I would maybe find out what was wrong with me. I also read esoteric books about the concept that we attract the things we resonate with ourselves. I guess I began to understand, but not really. The longest relationship I had was 13 years with a histrionic, narcissistic woman, till I had enough of this one-sided bullshit again. Here are some little examples of a huge bunch of many others. She wanted to laser her eyes so she did not have to wear glasses anymore. So I drove her 5 times over 150 kilometers one way to Basila. Then I had to make a service. Then I had to make a service to my bike, and I asked her to drive me about just 10 kilometers. And she found that I was asking too much from her. What the F? Of course. Okay, the rules aren't the same. The rules that apply to the narcissist don't apply for you. Just because you go out of your way and do for them doesn't mean they're going to turn around and do for you. They don't even understand the concepts. Why are you even asking? Well, I drove you 150 miles to this place. So like, so? Like, they can't even conceptualize, like, well, you owe me. This is me. I needed the ride. We're not talking about you. We're talking about me. That's the mentality. They can't even conceptualize, you know, turnabout. You know, one person does it something for you, you kind of owe them, but they don't get it because it's only about them. Then my mother came to visit, and she had breast cancer, so she has only one breast left. Of course, she was very complexed about that, but we had a new jacuzzi, and I wanted her to try to enjoy it. So finally she agreed, because I said I would help her come out of it if she has problems to get out because of her age. And my girlfriend told me she was disgusted that an old woman had used our jacuzzi again. What the fuck? She could insult me all she wanted, but treating my mother that way was much too much for me. That day I decided to leave, and I did it 3 months later. I must admit that I was no good person. Either I cheated on my girlfriend with the girl I was afterwards, and I'm married to now. It was not right. My only excuse is that I wanted to be loved. What still does not make it right. I was generally afraid to be alone and to be abandoned. All right, look. Don't beat yourself up over that. You know, you ended up married to the person you left with. You were being abused. I mean, this girl couldn't even give you a ride 10 miles. Your mother had breast cancer. She had a mastectomy, and all she cared about was an old lady in her jacuzzi. You know, to me, you don't owe this. You didn't owe this woman anything. You don't owe her anything, because what does she do for you? You have a right to be happy. You have a right to be happy. You have a right to be loved. And if that's what you found, the fact that you were still with her, you know, I know some people aren't going to agree with this, but I don't put that much stock in it. You know, you earn love. You earn being in a relationship. Yeah, you make a promise at the beginning, but your partner broke the promise long before you ever cheated on her. Long before you ever cheated on her. Just because you found someone else, that doesn't trump all the abusive behavior you went through. Okay? I guarantee you, if she treated you with love and respect and honor and the way you wanted to be treated, you would never have even looked twice at this other girl. But because it's cheating and it's a sexual thing, a sexual nature, all of a sudden now it's like, oh, well, that's it. That trumps everything. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So stop beating yourself up over it. Now, it's just the way it is. And now you're married to the person. Good for you. I'm glad you found somebody who loves you and cares about you the way you want to be cared about. I think now I was a heavy codependent then, but I still knew nothing about narcissistic personality disorder. The worst narcopath I met was in 2014. But at the same time, she was my final wake-up call. I like to play video games since I was little. Maybe I was saving the world, even if it's only in a virtual game. First I played for me, but then online games came up. And I played, but I did not like to speak because it felt weird to me to speak to people I do not know at all. And that's a common thing with people with PTSD from narcissistic abuse. You don't even want to talk. That comes with being in that safe space prison, okay, and being a shut-in where, you know, it's easier because you don't have to talk to anybody, you don't have to confront anybody, you don't have to be judged by anybody. In 2010, I was finally together with a girl who was nice to me, and I married her in 2013. Like I mentioned before, I knew her since 1996, so I knew her very well. She said to me, "Why don't you speak? That could be nice." She would really regret these words later. First, I met a guy pretending to be a girl, and then I met the narcopath that nearly destroyed me for good. Because of this guy who was pretending to be a girl, I was glad she was speaking on the mic, so I was sure not playing with a fake guy again. And there's a lot of that online, unfortunately, men posing as women. That's the internet. And it is creepy, so you do have to be careful. And she told me one day that she was abused by her father, that she was diagnosed bipolar at the age of 14, and that she was a heavy pot smoker then. And she still likes to drink vodka, but that she doesn't smoke pot no more. She also told me at the beginning that she was a bad girl, that I should have listened to that. So we became friends, we played and talked every day, and we had an awesome laugh every time. And when we were not playing, she was literally texting me day and night. Now I know that was just the love bombing phase. She told me how great I was and how I got a good job and I got a good life by myself, which is true. I am a programmer and I had a really good job at this time. So it feels so good that a young girl, she was 18 when I met her, that's what she said, was looking up to me. I was 45 years old at this moment. Of course, the love bombing did not last long, and the put-downs begun very covertly. She told me very indirectly that I was slow, old, and that I began to forget things. Gaslighting. This girl was after your money. This girl was she was looking for a sugar mama, which is very common now with these young girls. Is they're all looking for sugar daddies or sugar mamas and looking to be taken care of. They have no ambition whatsoever. I was slowly getting addicted because when she was not playing with me, I was so sad I could cry and I began to be depressed. Some days I could not get out of bed, waiting if she would text me or I could talk to her on Skype or in some video game. For getting back her attention and to prove how she was important to me, I bought her things. A headset, of course, the best thing you can buy at this time, an iPhone 6, a PS4, an Xbox One, countless video games, and so on. Writing this hurts, and I feel so incredibly stupid because I did such things for a person I never even met in real life. But I told myself that I was chosen to save her, and that she was my best friend. She always told me she wanted to meet me, but that because of her abuse, she's afraid to meet new people in life. Yeah, you're just getting used. You're getting taken in by a scammer. In my gut, I always felt that something was wrong with her, but I was so addicted. So I gaslighted myself to justify to still spend every free minute with her. Of course, I also caught her in several lies, but I was too afraid to confront her again because I knew she would punish me for that. But because of my wife was not pleased with this friendship, and at work I was doing only the minimum so I could fast go home to play video games with her. Sadly, my mother was getting very sick at this time too, so she and gaming was my escape from reality. That was your safe space. That was really a prison, and your prison was being monitored by a sadistic warden who was using you, using your emotions, neglecting she was basically neglecting you emotionally because she knew by keeping you emotionally neglected, it would trigger you to try to please her, and she knew you were going to try to please her with gifts, Xboxes, PlayStations, iPhones, so on and so forth. This was all a tactic to get you to buy her things. Someone should make a study about narcopaths and PC or video gaming. Well, much like the internet, gaming is also, a breeding ground for narcissists because it allows them access to the outside world without actually leaving their house. So it allows that narcissist to use the internet to thrive. So, you're right about that. I think there are a lot of them. It's a world that can control it's a world that can control or something in that sense. In a virtual game, you can be whoever you like to be. And it's very easy to make people believe you are something you are not. Then I lost my job. I was about losing my wife, the house we had bought together, and my mother was getting sicker and sicker. In this situation, I knew I could not go on like that. It would destroy my life if I go on like that. After calling her out on some bullshit that happened again, and she was blaming me as usual, I stopped playing cold turkey, if you want. And I was so exhausted I slept for 3 days in a row. I was lucky that she is so entitled that she never texted first anymore, so I could begin with recovering, and the emotional fog was slowly lifting. And first I thought I was addicted to the video gaming. Then I discover a YouTube video about being addicted to a person. And I knew in this moment that this was my case. Without a job, I spent the whole day looking at videos about NPD abuse. I also worked 2 months with a psycholog, but she knew nothing about NPD. And so I found it not very helpful and validating. And when I discover the spiral of abuse by a covert socialized narcissist, I realized that was exactly my experience. It was like she had a playbook to this. Suddenly I was able to see the overwhelming amount of narcissists that were in my life abusing me. But I also saw the huge dysfunctional things I was putting myself and others. But I also saw the huge dysfunctional things I was putting through others myself. Since I went no contact with my narcopath in October 2015 and all the other narcs in my life, I feel better every day. My relationship with my wife is much better. I'm not obsessed with gaming anymore. I got a new job, and even my mother is getting better considering her advanced age. Well, that's very good. I would also like to go no contact with my father, but I would feel bad because of my mother. She is isolated. And like I said, for me, she is a victim of abuse since she was a kid. Yeah, that's kind of tough if she's, she has cancer and she's old. So I understand what you're saying there. I know I still got a lot of work to do, loving myself in the first place and having solid boundaries. But I hope it's not too late for me to make a life I can be proud of. And it's not too late. It's never too late. And you've already started down the path. And what I really think happened to you here is, you got caught up in the gaming and you got caught up with this voice and this person you never met. This idea of happiness that you were creating online. And I've heard of this, of people, becoming obsessed with somebody online. Look, it's happened to me. It's happened to me a couple times just on this channel. So it does happen. It is a reality. And I think because, you didn't understand what narcissism was at the time. You didn't understand your own behavior. You didn't understand what was happening. Once you read that book that you read and you started looking at NPD and narcissistic behaviors, and it was defined for you, and you said it yourself, it was like a playbook. And I've said that many times. This is a playbook. And once you discover, once you find that playbook, once you find the narcissist's playbook laying around, once the narcissist leaves that playbook sitting out for you to find, and you pick it up and you read it, everything changes. And you can begin to see things for how they are, and you can start healing. Always remember that playbook you found. Always remember, when you're dealing with hard times in your life and difficult decisions, you feel like you're losing control, go back to the narcissist playbook and say, wait a minute, this is a narcissist playbook. This is it. This is the behavior. I'm doing this because I was abused, and I don't have to. Okay, because this is all by design from the abuser. So once you've discovered the playbook is the key to your recovery, because now, the mask is off, the veil's gone, and you can see it all for what it is. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story as well. You did a very good job for somebody who doesn't speak English as a first language. I was very careful trying to make some sense. There was some little staggering parts, but I got through it. Sorry for everybody else watching if it came off as a little slow, but I wanted to make sure I got the story right for her. Because it is a very telling story, and there is a lot to learn from it. So thank you everybody for watching. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. The PayPal link is in the description box. You know what to do by now. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again shortly.